Welcome to Grego's TV Daily. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Sam Mobile put out an article saying that foldables can be for Samsung what the iPhone was for Apple. And I want to dive into that and how I kind of agree and kind of disagree with it at the same time. I think the product that really got people excited about Apple again was the iPod, and it created this effect where you got an iPod and then you're like, you know what? Maybe I want a Mac too. I keep hearing how cool they are. And then you got a Mac. And then they did come out with the iPhone. And now the iPhone is now what the iPad was, because if you buy an iPhone, then you're like, you know what? Maybe I'll get a MacBook, or maybe I'll get an Apple Watch. And you have this string of products that all kind of communicate with each other and work with each other really well. And if you think about the iPhone, Apple's the only company that makes iPhones. You can't buy another iPhone anywhere else, and it runs iOS, and it's got its own operating system with its own software features and things like that. And then you think about Android. Android is kind of like the way Windows is. Windows, you get Windows computers and they're everywhere. Android's the same thing. It's basically all the other phones that aren't iOS are Android, and Android is on every other device from every other company at this point for the most part. And if Samsung's foldables, which again, we go back to Android being on everything, Samsung foldables have a lot of competition. They have competition from, at least in the Western world, I'll just talk about that. They have OnePlus and they have Pixel. Now, both of those companies aren't nearly as big as anything that Samsung does, so Samsung has a leg up on those companies. But spec to spec, feature to feature, the way the phones look, the things they have, sometimes those phones are better, sometimes Samsung's are better, but they're pretty close to the point where someone that's buying a phone, if they don't know about either three of those brands, they might choose the OnePlus or the Pixel or the Samsung, depending upon who's influencing their buying decision. It would be someone like me or somebody at the store level or wherever it may be. But to go back to the question, can foldables be for Samsung what the iPhone was for Apple? And I guess yes and no, it can. I think in the foldable market here in the Western world, yes, it potentially can, because when people think about folding phones or smartphones in general on the Android side, I would say the regular person's probably gonna think just Samsung, just like they do with iPhones. And when they think about a smartphone, they usually don't say smartphone, they just say, oh, do you have an iPhone? You know, that's what they say. But if they know you have Android, they're either going to say, do you have Android or Samsung? But they probably mean, do you have a Samsung? So I think foldables for Samsung, obviously they were one of the first people to release these phones on a mass level for generations now. And these phones are very, very important to the culture and design of where Samsung heads in the future. But at the same time, it's a really small market for them. I think the only way they're going to get to that next level where these are for foldable phones are the bread and butter, or they really make Samsung who Samsung is they get the price way, way down, competitive to what you get with a regular traditional slab phone. But then they also have to get these to where people know about them. And I think the only way they're gonna let everybody know about these phones, besides getting the price really good, would be if Apple releases a foldable phone. And then at that point, especially if Apple releases something like this, but then at that point, is Samsung known for foldables? No, I think Apple would be known for foldables. This needs to get to a point where Apple releases one of these. Unfortunately, at least in the Western world, these phones don't make up a big percentage of Samsung sales. They're exciting, they're different, they're fun, but no one's buying them really because of the fact that, you know, they're expensive and they're new and it's completely different, and Apple doesn't make it. I think that's the biggest problem with it. So can foldables be for Samsung what the iPhone was for Apple? Yes, but no, because people just don't know about it or they're scared of it. That's the way things go. People don't want to try something new when it's from a company, even though they know the company. When I meet everybody, they're blown away and excited by these phones, but then they're like, oh my God, Android, it's so different. And honestly, it kind of is, but it mostly isn't. Using a Android phone is very similar in the way that they work. Basically, you know, swipe up to bring up your whatever, to go home, whatever. You do that with an iPhone. You swipe down to see your notifications. Let me move that because I had some notifications. Swipe down to see your notifications. They're basically just the same thing, you know, especially when you turn gestures on for the Android. Android sometimes is actually easier to use at this point because you can put the buttons at the bottom, and if you don't like the gestures with iPhone, you have to buy either an old iPhone or you can have Android, which has, you know, traditional back buttons, home button, and recent apps button, which makes the phone a little bit easier, especially for a person that's not technically savvy. So Android is completely overblown with, oh, it's so difficult, it's so this. A lot of those people living on a past memory. iPhones and Androids are really similar. So my thought is, you know, give a foldable a try if you haven't already, especially on the Samsung side. These things are amazing. They're fun. They're wonderful. These phones are not perfect, but they're damn cool. So check them out. Let me know your thoughts on this. Have a great day, and we'll see you down the road. Peace.